Welcome to the Community Builder Podcast. The world is our classroom, and every moment is an opportunity to understand human connection at a newer level. On this podcast, we'll explore the minds of active community builders as they strive to leave their imprint on the world. I am your host, Travis King. Let's build. Before we get started, we would like to thank our sponsor, Cruise Control Music, the ultimate audio branding experience. Cruise Control Music creates custom, authentic sounds and music to showcase your brand identity and is a direct reflection of your vision, goals, and values. If you're looking to start or level up your podcast experience, log on to cruisecontrolmusic.com. Welcome back to the Community Builder Show, and today we have Dan from the Jersey City Tech Meetup here, and he's going to talk to us about how he's built the community, what he's been up to, and what he has going on. So thanks for taking the time to talk with us today, Dan.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and it's been really great building a relationship with Meetup.com, is obviously the platform I decided to leverage for that kind of project, as I may say, and I'm happy to share more about that as well. And it's been just an amazing experience. Now, just a little over a year later, I am leading my startup in a sense, and I've been mentoring a new leader. So moving up next, I'm very excited to be more helpful on a larger scale of perhaps mentoring other leaders in the space to do the same.
Nice. So I guess if you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners, like, how did you get started? Like, what prompted you to start that meetup? Like, why?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and that's pretty much everything at the end of the day is why, right? And I can easily answer that. So I work actually full-time with the New Jersey Tech Council. We're a statewide organization that helps to support the ecosystem, and we've been doing that for over 20 years. About this time, about a year or so ago, we've put in some thought to how we can help inspire different communities and energize the community and how that could be done. And I was happy to take on the project in the sense of saying, I'm going to pick this town, that being Jersey City, because I thought there was so much potential there. But there was nothing going on, which is really, really mind-blowing.
I live there, so I can definitely second that.
And it's a scary thought. I mean, that place is known as, think of the nicknames, the sixth borough, in the shadow of New York City. And that's an amazing place to make a stand, especially for New Jersey and its market. So how it started, so this idea was born about, let's create a meetup, let's find a way to do this and create a community. And this was completely from scratch. I was new to the platform as a organizer, and that is a very daunting task. I think that platforms aside, creating a community is a very daunting task, and it takes a very vigilant mind and someone that really believes in themselves and is ready to learn things along the way. So now looking at the mirror a little over a year or so later, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I've changed as a person. I've been completely transformed, and that's one of the great positives about being in that role. But again, going back to starting this thing out, it was very much by scratch, and I was so fortunate that due to some of the connections I had in my own business and stuff like that, but more importantly, some of the relationship building skills I had, my lack of fear to reach out to people, that's kind of got the ball rolling, and it was a very slow roll. I connected with some great people, that being pretty related to the mayor's office in town. He ran their innovation department, which is a really big part of the equation in any city. Right. And Jersey City was at that time on the map as a exciting city. Now, in today's world, it's the number one recognized city in the nation for its innovation and its techniques for making it a very exciting society, which is cool. And I think we've been a huge part of that story behind the scenes. But after that, I had the chance to meet with them in person, and I brought this idea about how this could be valuable to the community and hopefully take things in a new direction in terms of building it out in a more thoughtful way. Again, I went right back to the pavement with their kind of saying, we got your back a little bit on this.
We support you.
Yeah, and that comes in a very light sense. It was we want to watch you along the way. We're happy to help you out in terms of connecting me with other people. And then that's where the web started. And then completely springing from there, went to organizing the very first event, working with some of the co-working space owners in the area, which I thought are a huge part of the equation in terms of, hey, they have a built-in community. This could be an event that might spark some interest and get the word out. And it was a pretty well-attended event. I'm a realist at the end of the day. It was a very foundational start. Maybe 30 people in the room. And probably
a lot of people though.
Pretty good. I have very big standards now. But at that time, it was exciting to see people there and engaging with the content and networking. That was really the business model. But more importantly, creating that environment for people to be connecting, networking, and building a community. To me, that was like the seeds of the tree. And it all started from there. Now, a little over a year or so later, the group grew from one member to now over 1,500. And this year alone, we already hosted 1,000 people at programs. So, and these are free events. These are situations where, hey, it's a Thursday night. You live in Jersey City as well, Travis, and there's tons of things to do.
Yep.
And people are coming out and they're enjoying the programs. And I'm hearing stories about how people are finding jobs and how companies are excited to be making these new connections that they didn't realize were right down the road. And to me, that is the definition of a community. And I think on a statewide level and perhaps even on a greater level, we've created a really, really exciting example of how you create a community through a meetup and ways that set it apart from everyone else.
Interesting. I feel like it's one of those things where like you kind of just do it and you take that risk and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what just happened? And you're like, now you're like, wait, it's a year later. I've built this community. I have these connections I've made. I have this impact I've driven in people's lives. And it's like, okay, well, like you felt like you had that first, it's like the first quarter of a football game, right? Like you did that and it's like, okay, like now what? So like now I guess you let everybody know like kind of what's next for you, like what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, and the playbook always changed. I like that you bring up the idea of football because it reminds you of a game like that because it is a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about it's all on you. You take the next steps. You make the next play call and you go with it. Back down. So and that included innovating the programs, thinking of different and what we've been known for now is more kind of. How should I explain it? Interesting topics, kind of the exploring the bizarre in technology at times. And I thought that was good fire starters in terms of bringing people out from different areas of the community thinking this is an interesting event. I mean,
what's the weirdest event you've hosted, you think? Or like...
It's a toss-up right now. So in Jersey, Jersey's a different place than New York as we all know. Different humans. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Much more... The culture is different, it's not, I want to say not more of a professional environment, but I think that the workforce is a little bit more seasoned in the sense of they're thinking a little bit more inside the box, where in New York, I think there's some more of interest in other things, there's more diversity and sometimes, but, the interesting is, so we've explored topics like sex tech and cannabis and things that are kind of cutting edge, to think about.
Right.
But for me, it was always the underlying themes or topics involved. And that's entrepreneurship, the grit and grind of being a woman in technology in today's workforce. And we've been exploring things like that, and people really appreciate that. And most importantly, the people that come out to speak that are really trying to leverage their brand. I've been watching them grow immensely over the past year. We hosted 2 sex tech programs, and the attendance was always over 100 people, and people are really interested.
For sex tech?
Right. So,
what is sex tech?
So sex tech is really it's really the exploration of sex in society, personal wellness. That's really the truth. And I think the real mission behind that industry is breaking down the barriers that we have created. Media has done that. And, just breaking down putting taboo aside and realizing this is an amazing business model and it's really profitable.
Right.
So these, and most are women, but there are certainly men in the mix too. And, it's thinking about for them, they're out there grinding, trying to get their startup going. And they've had 100 meetings with VCs over the past year, and everyone's just laughed at them and scoffed.
They're just like, no.
They're just like, no, this is ridiculous, But now, a little over a year later, millions of dollars are coming in, and funding is happening, and ideas are growing. if you can imagine, platforms like Kickstarter were against hosting products, like e.g. vibrators and stuff on their platform. And that's kind of sensible.
Super fair.
Yeah, and even it goes as far as platforms like Facebook and marketing blocking content.
Right.
Trojan was able to get their ads out, but not a company like Unboundbox I've worked with, or Dane Products, just to throw some names out there.
Right.
But it's cool now for me, if I reflect, which I've been doing a lot lately, because this has been a really amazing journey for me personally. I'm hearing from some of those founders now that they've heard the news that I'm stepping aside and bringing a new leader into the mix, and the amount of thank yous I get is so nice. And
I saw that video.
And you saw this video too.
Great. That video, I looked at it and I was like, wow. Like, if I were to receive something like this, I would feel super appreciated in my community, and like see the faces and the emotions that were like poured into the video, and like things you felt, even from Kate and from Chickpea and JC, excuse me. And I'm just like, wow, like that's got to feel great.
It does. To me, it was like, you don't get a lot of trophies in life when you get older. You get the pats on the back, or the wins financially, whatever you want, making big steps. But when you have a moment like that, and this was a complete surprise. So last week we hosted my finale, but also our summer finale. It was a big blockchain focused event. And the new organizer I've been mentoring for the past few months, this was kind of the official handing over of the keys, if you want to call it that.
Right.
You're in the driver's seat now. I'm here to help. But he did this really fantastic job of just taking some initiative there and going out and asking people to give some feedback on their experience. And for me, it was awesome because I work with so many people in a year, and you don't forget. But you don't realize, again, as you said, the impact you made. And actually, about 2 months ago, I sent out a letter to the community saying I am leaving. And there was a lot of shock and awe. And at that point, you realize...
People get scared.
People did get scared, I think. And you realize at that point, from some of the most strategic partners you could have wanted to align with, and I'm happy, I hope we get to talk about that too, of how big that is in the mix, about the impact you made. And that's really a telltale for you as a person. It's enriching for you in your life. You realize, I could do this. And and even more now, I can inspire other people to do it too.
Mm-hmm. I think that's huge. And I think the partnership, I love that you brought that up. I think the partnership aspect of the community is something that's forgotten, because speaking from a business stance, right? Like, sometimes you're saying, like, oh, like there's no real ROI in community. Like, is it marketing? Is it like sales? Is it strategy? Like, what is community? And it's like, actually, if you think strategically about the different lives and the different pieces that a community can impact, it can impact everywhere. And so, like, could you, I guess, tell everybody a little bit about like your partners and how they've impacted your journey and like what that looked like?
Certainly, yeah. And again, this was all grassroots. It was, part of my personal good faith in myself, that I do have good qualities in building relationships. And to some people that's unbeknownst. How do you do that? Maybe it's just...
They think you're weird.
They think
you're mad weird.
Sometimes it's just an exceptional character win versus a character flaw. It's having the ability to quickly understand what a business is looking for and where they'll find value, and proving it to them.
Yep.
And then they're going to work with you. But they are so important in the mix. And I think of this from a venue standpoint. I think of this from a speaking standpoint. I think of this from a community standpoint.
Those are the two biggest struggles, speakers and venues.
Right. So, and I think it's for thinking about partnerships is that I've had a lot of conversations with people in Jersey City, business owners and co-working space founders and people in government, for instance, and it's always stems down to the same thing. It's kind of proving them that you have to remind them that you have to be a good corporate citizen, or in this case, you have to really be a part of your community. You can do your job every day. That's great. But at one point, sometimes I ask them what's their definition of success in their job, especially if they're in a government role. If I've sat down even with the mayor in the past and asked about how important is this kind of initiative do you think to the future of this city? Because that's kind of the point here. These events they happen and they happen and they go and they're done, right? But the impact moving forward is what can really be impressive. So that's my thing. When I was always talking to people saying, how cool to be a part of this story, right? And to be a part of this mission. And that's what got it across. It was like, yeah, we do want to host your programs, because you know what? We've been hearing some great things, and then after the experience, ex post facto, they're like, this is phenomenal. We had 100 new people in here. I met so many new people and they're excited about learning about who we are and maybe working out of our space, or even, I might apply for that job that you guys posted last week. And it's kind of all about that in terms. So it's really, again, finding the value that they're looking for and listening. That's what I like to really tell people: listen first, then try to do some action. Really listen first and hear what people want from you, perhaps, or want to get out of it, and then figure out pretty quickly how to deliver on that.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important for people to understand, because I feel like a lot of times, even I find myself sometimes, I'm like, wait, maybe I should shut up. Maybe I should just listen to what's around me. And I think that especially in a community, everyone's born in a different place, right? Everybody's in different stages of their life. There's so many different people in the room. So it's why would you not listen when you're in the room full of people with different perspectives? It just makes, it makes sense, right? So I think that's definitely an important thing to remember.
Yeah, and in including to that, with being a good listener, I also believe in being completely transparent. I think transparency is super key. And I'm sure many of the people you've interviewed on your podcast have perhaps said similar things. I think it's a quality you learn as you grow as a human being. It's foundationally is that, just being a human being, you learn to be transparent and be honest with people and open up to just having a relationship, sometimes even more than just being in business together. Maybe just learning a little bit about what they do in their spare time. And sometimes that opens some amazing doors. People are like, wow, I didn't know you were into music too. I have a past life too, so I grew up as a musician and I worked in the music business. Some people have no idea that's the truth of my life story. And now I'm doing this and they don't see the connection there, but you'd be amazed at something as simple an example as that, if you connect on a different level, and it builds a really strong relationship.
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that. I was talking to some colleagues and friends about the truth, because I can be a very blunt, honest person, very upfront, this is what happened. I'm not hiding anything. And a lot of people that know me know that that's how I am. So I think that's an important thing. And I guess could you touch on how some of the the events or the gatherings that you've hosted have helped people break that first line break? I'm thinking Inception level, right? They're all up here, they're on Instagram, on Facebook, they'll tweet at each other, their comment, but they won't talk about a time they made a mistake. They won't admit to it in real life because they can't deal with it. So could you talk to some some gatherings that you've helped people break through that second level? Because I think that's super important for people to understand how that happens.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a human error that people get very quiet and very uncomfortable in social situations, unfortunately, or maybe they feel like they can't speak out. So at the Jersey City Tech Meetup, the culture I built, perhaps, that's the way I looked at it when building that out. I thought of it as maybe this is my startup story. I'm going to treat it as such, and I'm going to build a brand. I'm going to build a culture and experience that people could expect. So I thought that was going to really turn into greater turnouts, and that's exactly what happened. So if you exceed people's expectations at live event situations, but even before that, marketing the event and making it a fun and immersive experience that they're really anticipating, you will see skyrocketing attendance and interest in your programs and your initiative. But going back to my point, that I was always in live events inspiring people to say, you have to have a question. For instance, thinking about some of the topics I mentioned earlier in this podcast, or last week hosting things on blockchain. I personally don't know much about that. I have tons of questions. I'm not going to be shy to ask them. So the thing is kind of, as you brought up, people do get uncomfortable. And sometimes the social environments now that we all come to know, Instagrams and Facebooks, we can not create a false personality, but we only put out the good news, right?
Yep.
And sometimes that can be skewed. We all know that. We're always going to turn things in our favor. It's just kind of human nature. But I think we've had experiences where things have gone wrong. I was just talking to some of your colleagues upstairs about how we leverage platforms like Instagram to create a lot more hype around our events in the past few months.
That's where attention is.
Right, and it's been interesting how we've been, and Instagram, if you ever listen to this podcast, please don't ever monetize experiences like Instagram Live. We love it. Don't make us pay.
But, super facts.
Yeah, super facts. But so I can think of times we've gone live with speakers from perhaps in New York or around the region, and it doesn't work out. Tech fails. It happens. We had experiences this morning. You and I.
Literally, I'm like, microphone, phone.
But you make it fun, right? You don't sit there and beat yourself up while
No.
live. You say, you know what, let's talk about something else until we figure this out. You
Yeah.
know? So it's kind of like embracing the failures. And I think probably anyone that listens to this podcast or any of your content is going to be in the same realm of listening to folks like Gary Vee and folks who are going to talk about failure. And now you have to embrace that a little bit and realize it's not failure. Change the definition to a learning experience. You know, I think that's going to really change your perspective and make you a better person.
Yeah, super, super on point with that, because I think a lot of people don't know how to relate to what Gary Vee says. Like, I love the guy. Like, listen to him. Like, I remember when I was in college, I was on Twitter and I was like, who's this Gary Vee dude? And I was like, follow, no idea. And then turns out, this wine guy, he's, rah, rah, rah. But then, like, when you hear some of his messages, like, people don't get it. And they're right. Like, you got friends that are like, dude, you listen to Gary Vee? And you're like, yeah, I listen to Gary Vee. And they're just like, oh. And you're like, yeah, but, like, do you hear his messages? Like, it's the intent behind what he says is what you need to listen to versus, like, getting mad at why he's saying, like, oh, like, you need to go do. And it's like, no, but he's right. Like, he's super right. And that's why you guys don't like him. Like, he's telling you the blunt, honest truth and being, animated about it, right? Like, he's telling everybody that, like, you need to unleash your truths to the world, and, like, nobody can do that. And so I think that, like, back to your point, it's just, like, when you can, become vulnerable and, like, be honest with people, I think that's where, like, this, like, I don't know, like, hidden superpower lies with a lot of humans, and they don't get to see it because they're too busy on that first level, that surface level, and they don't get to the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th level of connectivity with other people. And I think that's, like, super important to point out.
Yeah, I think about the theme of your podcast. If I could make a statement that anybody could take away, it's for me, and I have a lot to learn. I'm a young guy, but the keys to leadership I've learned in my own personal life are, again, being transparent, being an expert listener, and then more importantly, having the grit to go get it and not be lazy. Go get it. If that's what you want to do, if that's what you're assigned to do, do whatever it takes to make that happen, and creatively make it fun. Do not make it a job. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Unless I pray to God you have that opportunity to make it fun. But for me, it was no rules. I created the rules. I created the culture, and that was really a lucky experience because it invented something that's pretty special. So again, to me, that's the keys of being a good leader, and more importantly, a really good community organizer.
I think that's super important. Like, if people forget that inside, we're all children. The people who are most successful, I hear, and I've heard from multiple mentors and people that have, like, gotten to places that I want to get to, it's like, just be a kid, Trav. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean be a kid? Like, I'm supposed to be professional. Like, I don't get it. Like, what do you mean? They're like, no, like, you need to have fun and remember that, like, you're doing this because it's fun. Like, whatever you do in life, like, in terms of, like, I don't know, like a hobby, like, don't turn a hobby into a job because then you'll hate it. It's like, it makes so much sense, but, like, remember that deep inside, like, you're the happiest when you're exposing your truths. Like, if you can't expose your truths, you're just keeping them locked up in this, like, hidden, box that's inside of you that, like, it's going to cause other things to go off, right? Like, if you don't tell people how you're really feeling, eventually it's going to resurface in another form. So it's like, be happy, be truthful, and you'll get so much further than you would if you, held it all inside of you. So, like, I think that's a super important point for people to take away.
Yeah, and I think if I could make any kind of last remarks on this topic, I want to welcome everyone listening to wholeheartedly join us in Jersey City. Keep an eye out for New Jersey as a whole. Working with Meetup, we have some great ideas about how we can be more impactful statewide and inspiring community leadership throughout the area. I think that's a really big and important part of the pipeline in many ways. And but yeah, join us in Jersey City. Although I am not organizing anymore.
Where are you at, Dan? How do people find you?
Yeah. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a great place to connect with me. So just look up Dan Sullivan, and if you, I guess, if putting taglines in there, you can look up add in Meetup there or New Jersey Tech Council. I'm sure I'll pop up, and there's a lot of me out there. It's kind of a common name. But
That's
and otherwise than that, I'm always happy to talk to anyone and connect with you about your business or maybe how we can be helpful. So if you're in the region in New York or New Jersey listening to this, and you run a startup or in a small business or even an enterprise level, and you're trying to find resources like listening to me talk about how to be a good leader, or perhaps how your company can be more successful, I really want to welcome you to connect with me at the New Jersey Tech Council. And that's my email is, I'm happy to give that out. It's just dan@njtc.org. And I'm very responsive, so I'm happy to get on the call or talk to you about anything you might be interested in talking about. I help host, about 80 to 100 events a year in that market. So if there's something that you're interested in learning about, I guarantee you will be talking about it. And once again, I really want to inspire everyone to go check out a Jersey City Tech Meetup, even though it's in its next stage. I have a lot of trust in the organizer moving forward, and that there's going to be some really interesting programs coming through the pipeline.
Awesome. Well, you heard it from Dan. You know where to find him. Thanks again for, hopping on today. I really appreciate your time and your insights and your, just learning about your journey. And, just to stay connected, I'll have all these insights and information in the show notes, and people can go check you out, and hopefully, someone will connect. Even if one person connects, we did our job.
Absolutely. Well, Travis, thank you so much for your time. And also, more importantly, thanks to Meetup for all their support.
Thanks for listening to the Community Builder Podcast. If you received an ounce of value from this podcast, share it with your friends. Oh yeah, don't forget to leave me a 5-star review. I need those. Remember, each perfectly laid brick moves you one step closer to building your community.